I entered my own open house, accompanied by a police officer. The expressions on my children's faces turned ashen upon seeing me in my living room, the very space they believed they were about to sell while I was recovering from surgery. My name is Barbara Mitchell, and I am 71 years old. Before I recount this story, I would appreciate knowing where you are viewing this from. Please share your state or country in the comments, as I enjoy discovering how far my stories reach. Now, let me take you back to where this ordeal began. It was a Tuesday morning in March when I underwent gallbladder surgery. The medical team assured me it was a routine procedure and I would be home in 2 days, returning to normal within a week. My daughter Jessica and my son Brandon both assured me they would monitor the house while I was hospitalized. They had spare keys, would water my plants, collect the mail, and ensure everything was secure. I trusted them completely. After all, they are my children. The surgery was successful. I woke up groggy in recovery, and by evening, I was settled in a regular hospital room, texting both kids to inform them that I was okay. Jessica responded with a heart emoji, while Brandon texted, "Rest up, Mom. We've got everything handled." Those words should have raised a red flag. I spent that night and the following day in the hospital, drifting in and out of sleep, enduring dreadful daytime television, rest, and consuming jello that tasted artificial. The nurses were kind, and my friend Dorothy visited with flowers. Everything seemed normal. Then, on Thursday afternoon, less than 48 hours post-surgery, my phone rang. The name on the screen read Patricia Holloway. I almost hesitated to answer, as I did not recognize the name, but something compelled me to pick up. "Hello? Hi, is this Barbara Mitchell?" The woman's voice was professional yet warm. "Yes, this is Barbara." "Barbara, my name is Patricia Holloway. I am a real estate agent with Riverside Realty. I am calling because I received a rather unusual listing request for your property at 847 Maple Grove Drive, and I wanted to verify some details with you directly before proceeding." My entire body went cold despite the warm hospital room. "I'm sorry, what? A listing for my house?" There was a pause. "Yes, ma'am. Your son Brandon contacted me yesterday about listing your property for sale. He stated that you had suffered a stroke and were moving into assisted living, and the family needed to sell the house quickly. He provided what he claimed was a power of attorney document." I struggled to breathe as the heart monitor beside my bed began beeping faster. "Miss Holloway," I said, my voice trembling, "I have not had a stroke. I am in the hospital for gallbladder surgery. I am not moving into assisted living, and I have absolutely not authorized anyone to sell my house." A silence enveloped the conversation for 3 heartbeats. "Mrs. Mitchell," Patricia said slowly, "I think we need to talk. Are you able to speak right now?" "Yes," I whispered. "Please tell me everything." Patricia's tone became serious. "Mrs. Mitchell, I will be completely honest with you. Something about this listing request felt off from the beginning, which is why I'm calling you. What did my son tell you?" I asked, gripping the phone tightly, my knuckles turning white. "He called Tuesday evening, claiming you had a major stroke that morning and were incapacitated. He asserted that you signed a power of attorney 6 months ago, granting him and his sister authority to manage your affairs. He wanted the house listed immediately, preferably the same day. Tuesday evening, the day of my surgery, while I was still groggy from anesthesia, my own son was attempting to sell my house. He emailed me a copy of the power of attorney," Patricia continued. "Mrs. Mitchell, I have been in real estate for 23 years. I have seen hundreds of legitimate power of attorney documents. This one looked incorrect. The formatting was off, there were spelling errors, and frankly, the timing was suspicious. Why would someone with a valid power of attorney wait until the exact day of a medical emergency to suddenly list a property?" "What did you do?" I inquired. I informed him I needed to verify some information before proceeding. I told him I would call him back in 24 hours. Then I did what I always do when something feels wrong. I looked up the property owner's information and called you directly. Thank goodness for Patricia Holloway's instincts. "Can you send me a copy of that document?" I asked. "I can, but Mrs. Mitchell, if what you are telling me is true, you need to involve the police. This is not merely a family disagreement. If your son forged a legal document to fraudulently sell your property, that constitutes a serious crime." My mind raced. Brandon, my baby boy, whom I had rocked to sleep, whom I had helped through college, who had cried at his father's funeral and promised to always care for me, was attempting to steal my house. Is my daughter involved? I needed to know. Yes, Patricia replied gently. Jessica called me this morning to follow up. She asked if I could schedule an open house for this weekend. She mentioned they wanted to sell quickly due to your medical bills and the costs associated with your care facility. Both of them. My two children had conspired against me. Mrs. Mitchell, are you all right? Should I call a nurse? I became aware that I was crying, silent tears streaming down my face in that sterile hospital room. I'm okay, I managed to say. Patricia, can you do me a favor? Can you tell them? Yes. Tell them you'll conduct the open house. What? Please tell them you will list the house, schedule the open house for Saturday afternoon. Can you do that? There was a long pause. You have a plan. I'm going to need a few days to arrange things, but yes, I have a plan. Will you assist me? Patricia Holloway did not hesitate. Absolutely. Let's catch them red-handed. After we concluded the call, I pressed the call button for the nurse. I had work to do. The nurse who entered found me sitting up in bed, tears still fresh on my face, but my jaw set in determination. Mrs. Mitchell, what's wrong? Are you in pain? No, I replied, but I need to speak with my doctor. I need to know when I can be discharged. Within the hour, Dr. Reynolds arrived. I told him I was feeling much better, a statement that was untrue. I felt like I had been struck by a truck and needed to go home. He was hesitant, but I insisted, and he finally agreed I could leave Friday morning if my vitals remained stable. That left me one day before the open house. Thursday evening, I made my first call, not to Brandon or Jessica, who likely thought I was incapacitated in the hospital, perhaps hoping I would remain there for weeks. No, I called my friend Dorothy. Dorothy, I need your help with something, and I need you not to ask too many questions just yet. Barbara, honey, what's wrong? Can you pick me up from the hospital tomorrow morning? I need you to take me to a lawyer's office and then to the police station. There was a moment of silence. What have your kids done? That's the thing about real friends, they know. I'll explain everything tomorrow. Can you help me? I'll be there at 9 a.m. sharp. Next, I called my lawyer, Robert Morrison. I had known him for 15 years, and he had handled my husband's estate after Tom passed. I trusted him completely. Barbara, it's good to hear from you. How was the surgery? Robert, I don't have time for pleasantries. I need you to pull my will and all my estate documents. I need to know if I ever signed a power of attorney for my children. Of course you didn't. You specifically told me you didn't want to do that. You mentioned you would wait until you were much older and would involve all three of your children together if it ever became necessary. 3 children. My youngest, Michael, lived in Seattle. He had called me twice since the surgery, genuinely concerned for my well-being. I wondered if he was aware of his older siblings' actions. Robert, my children are attempting to sell my house using a forged power of attorney. I could hear papers rustling on his end. Tell me everything. I explained the entire situation, the surgery, Patricia's call, the forged documents. Robert was silent for a long moment. Barbara, this is elder fraud. It's a felony. You need to file a police report immediately. I know. I'm going to the station tomorrow, but Robert, I want to catch them in the act. The realtor has scheduled an open house for Saturday at 2 p.m. I want to walk in there with the police. That's actually brilliant. It will be impossible for them to deny their intentions if they are actively showing your house to potential buyers. I will prepare an affidavit for you to take to the police. And Barbara? Yes? I am truly sorry you are going through this. No parent should have to deal with this from their own children. I couldn't trust myself to respond without breaking down, so I simply thanked him and hung up. Friday morning, I checked myself out of the hospital against the nurse's strong recommendations. Dorothy was waiting in the lobby, her expression tight with concern. Barbara, you look terrible. I feel worse, I admitted, gingerly lowering myself into her passenger seat. Every movement tugged at my surgical incisions, but this cannot wait. Our first stop was Robert Morrison's law office. He had everything prepared, copies of my actual estate documents proving I had never granted power of attorney, an affidavit with his statement as my attorney, and property records showing I was the sole owner of my home with no liens or disputes. I also prepared this, Robert said, handing me another document. It's a cease and desist letter directed to Patricia Holloway's brokerage, officially stating that any listing of your property is fraudulent and unauthorized. However, do not send it until after Saturday. I won't. I need them to go through with the open house. Robert regarded me over his reading glasses. Barbara, are you certain you are up for this? You just had surgery 2 days ago. Robert, my children are stealing my house. I am prepared for whatever it takes. Next, Dorothy drove me to the police station. Walking in was more challenging than I had anticipated. My entire midsection ached and I felt dizzy, but I stood tall. The officer at the front desk appeared skeptical when I explained my reason for being there. Ma'am, are you sure this isn't just a family misunderstanding? Perhaps your kids are trying to help. Officer, I interrupted, placing the stack of documents on his desk. My children informed a realtor that I had a stroke and was incapacitated. They forged a legal document. They are actively attempting to sell my property without my knowledge or consent while I recover from surgery. This is fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. Now, can I speak with someone who handles these cases, or do I need to contact the local news? His eyes widened. Let me get Detective Morrison. He paused and glanced at my lawyer. Any relation? No, Robert said dryly. But I am her attorney, and I can assure you this is a serious criminal matter. 20 minutes later, I was seated across from Detective Sarah Brennan, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She meticulously reviewed every document. Patricia had emailed me the forged power of attorney, and Robert had already prepared an analysis demonstrating how it differed from legitimate legal documents. Mrs. Mitchell, Detective Brennan stated, this is undoubtedly fraud. The document is clearly fabricated, likely from an online template. However, to prove intent and build a solid case, catching them at the open house is indeed an excellent strategy. Will you be there? I asked. I will be there personally, at 2 p.m. tomorrow, correct? Yes, I will arrive in an unmarked car at 1:45. Please do not enter until I arrive. We will walk in together. She paused. Mrs. Mitchell, I must ask, are you absolutely certain you wish to press charges against your own children? I reflected on Brandon's promise to care for me, Jessica's heart emoji while she plotted to steal my home. Absolutely certain. Friday afternoon, Dorothy insisted I stay at her house rather than returning home. You need rest, and I refuse to let you be alone right now, she stated firmly. I was grateful. The thought of returning to my empty house, knowing what Brandon and Jessica had planned for it, made me feel ill. That evening, my phone rang. Jessica, Mom, how are you feeling? The cheerfulness in her voice felt toxic. I prepared my response carefully. Tired, sore. The doctor says I am healing well, though. That's wonderful. Listen, Mom, don't worry about anything at the house. Brandon and I have been checking on everything. Your plants are watered and the mail is collected. You just focus on getting better. Thank you, sweetheart, I said, the words tasting like ash. You both are so good to me. Of course, Mom, we love you. Get some rest. We will come visit soon. After she hung up, I remained staring at my phone. Dorothy brought me tea and sat beside me on her couch. That was Jessica. Yes, telling me not to worry about the house, telling me she loves me. Oh, honey, the open house is tomorrow at 2, Dorothy. Right now, my house is probably staged. They have likely cleared out some of my personal items to enhance its appearance for potential buyers. They are lying to my face while actively selling my home. I showed Dorothy the listing that Patricia had sent me. There was my house, my beautiful home that Tom and I had purchased 43 years ago, the place where I had raised 3 children, celebrated holidays, and mourned my husband. It was listed for $425,000. They're underpricing it, Dorothy remarked, scanning the listing over my shoulder. Houses in your neighborhood have been selling for over $500,000. They want a quick sale, I replied. The faster it sells, the quicker they get the money. What do you think they need the money for? That question had haunted me all day. Brandon was a regional manager for an office supply company, and Jessica was a nurse. Neither had mentioned financial difficulties. Jessica's husband, Mark, had a solid job in IT, and Brandon's wife, Karen, was a teacher. I don't know, I admitted. Perhaps they have debts I am unaware of. Maybe they're simply greedy. Does it matter? I suppose not. That night, sleep eluded me. Each time I closed my eyes, I envisioned my children walking through my house with strangers, pointing out its features and discussing potential offers. In my dreams, they were children again. Brandon at 7, missing his 2 front teeth. Jessica at 5, insisting on wearing her princess dress everywhere. Where had those children gone? When had they transformed into individuals capable of such betrayal? Saturday morning dawned gray and cold. Dorothy prepared breakfast, but I could barely eat. "You don't have to do this," she said gently. "You could just send the police. You don't need to see them." "Yes, I do. I need to look them in the eye. I need them to witness my entrance." At 1:30 p.m., Dorothy assisted me in getting dressed. I selected my blue sweater, the one Jessica had gifted me for Christmas 2 years prior, and my pearl earrings, a gift from Tom on our 30th anniversary. "Ready?" Dorothy asked as we entered her car. "Let's go." We arrived at my house at 1:40. Detective Brennan's unmarked sedan was already parked down the street. I recognized her silhouette in the driver's seat. My house appeared different somehow. The lawn had been freshly mowed, and flowers had been planted by the mailbox. Flowers I had not planted. A large open house sign stood at the curb, directing potential buyers to my front door. "They put up a sign," I whispered, indicating the advertisement for selling my house. Dorothy squeezed my hand. "Stay strong, Barbara." Detective Brennan approached us, dressed in plain clothes. "Mrs. Mitchell, are you ready?" "I believe so. There are already several cars here. It seems people are inside viewing the property." She paused. "This will be difficult. Are you absolutely certain?" I gazed at my house. Through the front window, I could see people moving about, strangers walking through my living room, likely discussing whether my home would be a wise investment. "I am certain." "Very well. I will enter first and identify myself to your children and the realtor. I want to establish control of the situation before they realize you are here. Please wait exactly 2 minutes after I enter, then follow." "Can you do that?" I nodded. Detective Brennan walked up my driveway and opened my front door as if she owned the place. I watched her disappear inside. "Dorothy," I said, "before we go in, if you're watching this video and you found this story as shocking as I did while living it, please hit that subscribe button. What happens next is something I will never forget, and I believe you need to see how this concludes." Dorothy checked her watch. "It's been 2 minutes." Together, we walked up the driveway, Dorothy supporting my arm. Each step tugged at my incisions, but I scarcely noticed. My entire focus was on the front door. I pushed it open. My living room was filled with people. A young couple examining the fireplace, an older man studying the built-in bookshelves, a woman taking photos of the crown molding, and there, in the center of it all, stood Jessica and Brandon. Patricia Holloway was with them, her expression carefully neutral upon seeing me. Detective Brennan remained slightly apart, her hand near her badge. The moment Jessica noticed me, her face turned completely white. "Mom," Brandon exclaimed, his mouth agape. "What are you doing here? You were supposed to be in the hospital." "Surprise," I said quietly. The entire room fell silent. Every prospective buyer halted their activities and stared. You could have heard a pin drop on my hardwood floors. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Jessica's voice was shrill and panicked. "You were just what, Jessica? Showing my house to strangers, taking offers on the property I own? The house I specifically did not authorize you to sell." Brandon stepped forward. "Mom, you don't understand. We are doing this for you." "For me, after your stroke?" "I did not have a stroke, Brandon. I had gallbladder surgery, and I am standing right here, very much alert and oriented, watching you commit fraud." That was when Detective Brennan displayed her badge. "Everyone except Mrs. Mitchell, her family, and Miss Holloway, please exit the house immediately," Detective Brennan announced, brandishing her badge. "This is now an active police investigation." The prospective buyers hurried to leave, practically tripping over one another in their haste to exit. Within 30 seconds, my living room contained only me, Dorothy, Patricia, Detective Brennan, and my 2 children. Brandon found his voice first. "This is ridiculous." Mom, tell them this is a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding, I replied, my voice stronger than I felt, is your belief that I wouldn't find out. Jessica's eyes widened in panic. Mom, we can explain. Then explain, Detective Brennan prompted. Explain the fraudulent power of attorney. Explain why you informed Miss Holloway that your mother had a stroke and was incapacitated. Explain why you are attempting to sell property you do not own. We were trying to help, Jessica cried. Mom, you are 71 years old. You cannot take care of this large house by yourself any longer. Dad has been gone for 6 years. You need to be somewhere with support and readily available medical care. So, you decided to force me out, to deceive a realtor, forge documents, and sell my house without my knowledge while I was recovering from surgery? Brandon's expression hardened. You are being unreasonable. We are your children. We are looking out for your best interests. My best interests? I felt my voice rising. Brandon, did you ask me what I wanted? Did either of you sit down with me to discuss my future? Silence. No, I continued. You acted behind my back. You created a fake legal document. You lied about my medical condition. You brought strangers into my home to sell it out from under me. And you did all of this while I was in a hospital bed recovering from surgery. Jessica began to cry. We need the money, okay? Is that what you want to hear? Mark lost his job 3 months ago. We have credit card debt. The children's tuition is due, and we are drowning. Brandon has been assisting us, but he has his own bills. This house is sitting here, worth $500,000, and you are living in it alone. It's not fair. There it was, the truth. So you thought you would steal it? I asked softly. You believed you could sell my home, my memories, everything your father and I built together, because you have debts. We were going to use the money to get you into a nice facility, Brandon replied, though his voice lacked conviction. You would have been taken care of. How much of the sale price was actually meant for my care? I pressed. Be honest, Brandon. For once in this entire nightmare, be honest with me. He could not meet my gaze. Neither could Jessica. Detective Brennan stepped forward. Mr. Mitchell, Miss Reynolds, I need you to understand the serious nature of what you have done. You have committed forgery, fraud, and attempted theft. These are felonies. Prison? Jessica whispered. You're going to send us to prison, Mom. I looked at my daughter, my firstborn, the baby girl I had cradled through countless nights, whose hand I had held on her first day of school. You were going to steal my house, I replied. What did you think would happen? Suddenly, Brandon grew aggressive. This is insane. We are your children. Family does not send family to jail over a misunderstanding. This is not a misunderstanding, Detective Brennan stated firmly. This is premeditated fraud. Mrs. Mitchell, I need to obtain formal statements from everyone. Mr. Mitchell, Miss Reynolds, you will need to come to the station. We are not going anywhere without a lawyer, Brandon declared. That is your right, Detective Brennan acknowledged. But understand this investigation will proceed whether you cooperate or not. We have the forged document, recorded conversations with Miss Holloway, and the listing itself as evidence. You were caught in the act of attempting to sell property through fraudulent means. Jessica turned to Patricia. You set us up. You called our mother. I performed my duties, Patricia replied calmly. When a listing appears fraudulent, I verify it with the property owner. That is what any ethical realtor would do. Mr. Mitchell, Detective Brennan continued, can you tell me where you obtained the power of attorney document? Brandon crossed his arms. I am not saying anything without a lawyer. Then let me inform you what we already know. You downloaded a template from a legal forms website. We can trace that. You filled in your mother's information, forged her signature, and presented it as legitimate. You then contacted Miss Holloway and fabricated a false medical narrative about your mother's condition. I observed my son as the detective spoke. He appeared angry, defiant even, with no remorse or shame, only fury at being caught. Jessica, I said quietly, do you even grasp what you have done to me? She was still crying. Mom, please consider what this will do to our family, my kids, your grandchildren. What will happen to them if I go to jail? Katie is only 12, Dylan is 9. They need their mother. It was emotional manipulation, and we both recognized it. But the hurt was still palpable. What about my needs, Jessica? What about my home, my security? Did you consider that when you were planning this? We thought you would never find out, she sobbed. We assumed you would be in the hospital longer and then in recovery, and by the time you realized the house had sold, it would be finalized. We intended to tell you we had found a beautiful assisted living facility, all paid for, with gardens and activities. You would have been happy there, Mom. You were planning to trap me, to strip me of my choice, to force me into a facility I did not choose because you had already stolen and spent my money. Dorothy spoke for the first time. Barbara, perhaps you should sit down. You are still recovering. She was right. I felt lightheaded, my surgical site throbbing, but I could not display weakness. Now, detective, I said, what happens next? I will need you to come to the station to provide a formal statement. Your children will need to be interviewed separately. Miss Holloway will need to provide her testimony and all documents. Then the district attorney will determine the charges. What kind of charges? I inquired. Elder fraud, forgery, attempted theft through deception, and potentially conspiracy. These are serious felonies in this state. She looked at Brandon and Jessica. You are both facing 2 to 5 years per charge. Jessica's knees buckled, and she grabbed the back of my couch to steady herself. Mom, please, Jessica begged. Do not do this. We made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but we are family. We can resolve this. I will pay you back somehow. I will not, I replied. You cannot repay trust. You cannot reimburse betrayal. You attempted to steal my entire life. We are sorry, she cried. We are so sorry. Please, Mom, please. Brandon remained unrepentant. This is ridiculous. No jury will convict us. We are your children trying to help you. You are being vindictive. Brandon Michael Mitchell, I said, using his full name as I had not done since he was a child. Stop talking. Every word you speak makes this worse. Detective Brennan was making notes on her phone. Mrs. Mitchell, I understand this is emotional. If you need a moment, I do not need a moment. I need this to conclude. I gazed at my children, truly looking at them. Did you even consider calling Michael, your brother? Did you think about including him in this scheme? They exchanged glances. Brandon spoke first. Michael would never have agreed. He is too idealistic. You mean he is honest, I replied. He is ethical. He is not a thief. Do not place Michael on a pedestal, Jessica snapped, her grief morphing into anger. It is easy to be ethical when you are not struggling. He earns 6 figures in Seattle. He does not understand our problems. Does that justify this? I asked. I am not saying it justifies it. I am saying you do not comprehend the pressure we are under. Then you should have asked me for help. My voice rose, pain shooting through my abdomen. You should have approached me honestly, disclosed your problems, and we could have found a solution together. Instead, you chose to commit crimes against your own mother. The room fell silent, save for Jessica's sobs. Patricia Holloway cleared her throat. Mrs. Mitchell, I want you to know that I have already contacted my broker. The listing has been removed. I have also documented everything for my records. I will testify to whatever the court requires. Thank you, Patricia. You saved me from losing everything. I'm just relieved I trusted my instincts. Detective Brennan regarded Brandon and Jessica. I need you both to accompany me to the station. Now, you may call a lawyer from there. Mrs. Mitchell, you should return home and rest. We can take your full statement on Monday. I want to provide my statement today, I insisted. While it is fresh, while I can still do this without breaking down. Very well. You may follow me to the station. As Detective Brennan led my children toward the door, Jessica turned back one last time. Mom, I love you. I know you do not believe it right now, but I do love you. I wanted to respond that I loved her too. The words felt automatic, ingrained in me by decades of motherhood, but they caught in my throat. I loved you enough to trust you with my house keys, I replied instead. You loved me enough to steal my house. She flinched, as if I had struck her. Then they were gone, led out of my home by a police detective, my 2 oldest children to whom I had given everything. Dorothy wrapped her arm around me. Let us get you seated before you collapse. The legal process spanned 3 months. 3 months of statements, evidence gathering, court dates, and meetings with the district attorney. Michael flew in from Seattle the day after I disclosed what had transpired. He was horrified, heartbroken, and furious with his siblings. Mom, if you had called me, if you had ever hinted you needed money, I would have helped. You know that, right? I did know. My youngest had always been my most considerate child. Brandon and Jessica both hired lawyers. Their attorneys attempted to portray it as a misguided effort to assist me, but the evidence was overwhelming. The forged document, recorded conversations with Patricia, the listing itself, and their own admissions in my house. That day, the district attorney offered them a plea deal: plead guilty to reduce charges, accept probation, pay restitution, and serve community service. The alternative was a trial and potential prison time. They accepted the deal. The hearing was brief. I sat in the courtroom, observing my children stand before a judge and admit their guilt. Jessica cried throughout the entire proceeding. Brandon's jaw was taut, his eyes hard with resentment. The judge ordered them to pay me $25,000 each in restitution for emotional distress, legal fees, and damages. They were each sentenced to 3 years of supervised probation and 500 hours of community service. They were also mandated to have no contact with me unless I initiated it. "Do you understand the terms?" the judge asked them. "Yes, Your Honor," they both mumbled. "What you did to your mother," the judge stated, "is unconscionable. Elder fraud is a serious crime, particularly heinous when committed by one's own children. You violated her trust in the worst possible way. You should be ashamed." I did not feel triumphant watching them accept their sentence. I simply felt exhausted. After the hearing, Michael took me to lunch. "How are you doing, Mom?" "I don't know," I admitted. "I won. I retained my house. They are being punished, but I do not feel victorious. You lost your relationship with 2 of your children. I lost it the moment they decided to forge that document. I just did not realize it yet." I continue to reside in my house. Dorothy checks on me daily. Michael calls twice a week. I have made my will abundantly clear. Everything is divided equally among all 3 children, but placed in a trust they cannot access until specific conditions are met, all overseen by Robert Morrison. Jessica sent me a letter 6 months after the hearing. She apologized, expressed understanding if I never forgave her, and asked if she could bring the kids by to see me. I agreed to see my grandchildren, but not her. Brandon has never reached out, and I do not expect he will. People often inquire if I regret pressing charges. The answer is no. They did not merely attempt to steal my house. They endeavored to rob me of my autonomy, dignity, and right to determine my own future. That is not something I can forgive, even from my own children. My house remains mine. My life is still mine, and that is all the justice I require. Please subscribe to my channel. I will see you in the next video with love and respect.